Hey, welcome back. It's time to talk about net worth. But before we can start, we need to talk about some vocabulary words, and they are already on your our word wall in our virtual classroom. I already put them there. They've been there for a couple weeks now. But anyway, so the first thing that we need to talk about, I'm gonna scoot you here. All right, so the first words that we need to talk about is your assets. Okay. Assets, these are items that you own that could be sold for money or any money you have saved. Okay. So these are items that you own that could be sold for money or any money that you have saved. Now, the other thing that we need to talk about are liabilities. Liabilities are things that you owe money on. So these are items that you owe money on. So like credit cards, loans, anything like that, okay? So these are items that you owe money on that you have to pay, okay? These are debts. All right, so these are debts. Now, when we're talking about assets and liabilities, there's something called net worth. Net worth is how much somebody is actually worth, okay? So your net worth All right, so net worth, this is how much a person is actually worth. So in order to figure out your net worth, you have to take how much you have in assets. So you take your assets and you subtract out any liabilities that you have. Okay? So to find your net worth, you take your assets minus your liabilities. And this right here will give you your net worth. Okay? Now, there's something very important that you need to know. One thing that does not factor into net worth is your income. Why does your income not factor in? Because your income is not something that has to be there all the time. You could lose that. Okay? So income does not factor in to net worth. Okay? So we're going to be doing a net worth chart in a little bit. Can y'all see that? See, that's kind of glared, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so income does not factor into net worth. Okay, so we're going to be doing a chart in a little bit, and income is one of the things, and net income does not factor into net worth. That's going to be one of your questions, okay? Because income is not something that you can get rid of. I mean, well, you could, but it's not something you can sell for money, right? And it's also not something that you owe on. So it doesn't factor into any of this, okay? So that's how we are going to calculate net worth. So now let's do a couple of examples. All right. All right, so let's say, who do I want to use? Trying to think who I hadn't used yet. I've used several of you, but not all of you. I will use use Aaliyah. Okay. I think I spelled your name right, Aaliyah. If I didn't, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Okay, so let's say that Aaliyah owns her house, okay? Owns a house worth, all right, let's say she owns a house, owns a car, has a savings account, has a credit card, and has student loans. All right. So before I put any money with any of it, we're going to look at this and we're going to break these down. Which of these are assets and which of these are liabilities, okay? You've got to understand the difference before we even put any money with it. Because if you don't understand the difference, it doesn't matter what we do from there. Because if you screw up which is which, the money part doesn't matter, okay? So remember what I said about assets. Assets are things that we own, that we could sell if we needed to for money. All right. So let's look at that. Aaliyah owns a house. She owns a car. So she owns a house. She owns a car. And she has a savings account. Well, what do you have in a savings account? Money. Okay. So these are all things that can be considered assets. Okay. Because they all have money involved with them. She could sell her house and she'd get money, right? She could sell her car and she'd get money. Yes. She could go to the bank and she could get money out of her savings account. Okay, so those are all assets. So her assets are her house, her car, and her savings account. Okay. Now let's talk about the liabilities. Now remember, liabilities are something you owe money on, that you have to make payments on. They're your debts. So right here, she has a credit card. What happens when we have a credit card? We make purchases on it, right? And then what? We have to pay it off. So we owe money. We have to pay that debt. So a credit card is a liability. And they're very bad. You should never get them. Just saying. Don't even go down that road. Do not get a credit card. Okay. She has student loans. Student loans are something that we have to pay back. We borrowed money to go to school so that we could get a good degree and get a good job, so that we can own a house and own a car, right? But then we do have to pay them back. So student loans are a debt. They are a liability. Okay, so our liabilities are the credit card and the student loans. All right. So if we were to decide what Aaliyah's net worth was, we would have to figure out how much all her assets were worth. We would have to figure out how much all her liabilities were worth, and we would have to subtract them. And that's how much Aaliyah's net worth would be. Okay? So now, what if we add some prices or some values to this? So let's say that her house is worth, I don't know, $150,000. Okay? Let's say her car is worth $15,000. And let's say her savings account is $10,000. All right? So those are her values here. Now, let's say over here, let's say that with her credit card, let's say she owes $2,500 on her credit card. Can y'all see the red? Maybe. And let's say her student loans are $35,000. All right? So now we're adding values to this. So now we can actually figure out what Aaliyah's net worth is. But remember, the most important thing you have to do first is to be able to tell me what is an asset and what is the liabilities. If you can't do this, then it doesn't matter what we do with those amounts. All right? Since I'm over here, I'm going to add up her liabilities first. So I have $35,000 in student loans, and I have $2,500 in a credit card. So if I add that up, that means my liabilities, or her liabilities, are $37,500. So those are her debts. Those are what have to be paid, okay? Now, I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to add up her assets. So assets-wise, she has $175,000 worth of positive things that she could sell to get money for. Now, to find her net worth, remember, we take her assets and we subtract her liabilities. Okay? So I'm going to take the $175,000 and I'm going to subtract the $37,500. So I took my assets and I'm subtracting my liabilities. All right. And that, my friends, will give me my net worth. All right, so let's see. That becomes a 10. So that becomes a 4, which then becomes a 14. That becomes a 6. All right. So 5, 7, 3. So Aaliyah's net worth would be $137,500. Okay, so that would be her net worth. Now, some of you are like, well, why does it matter? Well, this matters because, like, if you go to get a loan, this is what the banks use to decide whether or not you have enough net worth to be able to afford a loan that you want. Let's say Aaliyah wanted a bigger house. Does she have enough net worth to afford a bigger house? Or let's say she wanted a new car. Does she have enough net worth to get a new car? And if so, how much of a new car? How much can a new car be? Okay, so that is how you do your net worth. You have to be able to figure out your assets. You have to be able to figure out your liabilities. Okay, now we're going to do some more of this together in your Loom video on your worksheet for your classwork. So now that you've done this, you've taken your notes, you need to go to your classwork, you need to watch the Loom video and follow along and do the problems with me that I did with you on that page. And then you'll do your classwork and then you'll have your MOL. All right? And then tomorrow we will be talking about our discounts, rebates, incentives, and things like that. All right, guys. So make sure you watch that Loom video and do a few more with me to make sure you understand what you're doing before you start trying to do your classwork and your MOL. All right, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.